Hello, mate. I think I had a missed call. At least it's showing up as a missed call, unless I've spoken to you already. I don't know. All very confusing, isn't it, these days? So...
أخبار حزينة قالوا رونالدينيو أمه ميغالينا خليتنا كوزة البانديمية كوزة الكوفيد مساج فوسيلز فوستهم مساج من باطلوا تنقيقة كبيرة قالوا keep strong f'dawn iż-żminijiet diffiċli. Room 5 make love għal LP issa can you go?
Happening again, and I know that the expressed profound concerns about the
pupils, and some are returning to school in Scotland and Wales. Morning, schools in Northern Ireland are expected to reopen as England. A study suggests coronavirus vaccines have had a significant effect on the number of patients suffering serious admissions in Scotland who have had their first jab. Cloud and in England through the day, reaching southeast England by this evening. Brighter spells elsewhere with a high of 12 Celsius.
This is LBC.
These are not just hot cross buns. These are award-winning M&S hot cross buns. Try the melt-in-the-mouth extremely chocolatey buns bursting with rich chocolate chunks, or our uniquely spiced luxury buns with Fostisa currants and lemon peel. Any 2 packs for £2.50. Selected stores only. Prices may vary. T's and C's.
The CEO, and decoder of those 2 ideas on your phone.
Now that, my dear.
But what we can do is promise your business a network with 99% UK coverage at a price that beats our biggest competitor.
Voice coverage by population. Price promise is code from E, Vodafone or OT for mobile. Apply c3.co.uk.
The title of this little confusion is Fancy Dress. This party guest has spent a month crafting her pirate costume. She's even perfected her Arr. But did the invite say wear fancy dress or wear a fancy dress? Arr. She's confused. There's nothing to misunderstand when you choose a free Confused.com reward with car or home insurance. Get £20 off at Domino's, lastminute.com, Halfords or £20 of Shell fuel. I'm not confused. I'm Confused.com. Available on single annual policies. Sugar plus account required for T's and C's online.
It's no surprise when all cars from Hey Car come with a warranty. And Hey Car offer a 10-day money-back guarantee. Buy a car, never Hey Car to find yours. T's and C's apply. Website for details.
Euronics is different. Independently owned electrical retail. 600 local stores across the country, offering great brands, great service, great value, and always proud. The Euronics deals. And right now they've got some great deals from leading brands like Bosch and Siemens. So it's always worth a visit to see your local independent Euronics retailer. Find yours or shop online at euronics.co.uk.
Need a website for your business? Then you 123 Reg. New website builder starter tool. Fill in a quick site in less time than it takes to brew a cup of tea. £1 a month. Yeah, like
What don't you get, Gary?
I thought stuff like that was expensive. Terms and conditions apply. Register any business name at .co.uk for just 99p to get your one-page site online. Pricing excludes VAT at 20%. Visit 123-reg.co.uk for more information. £1 sterling.
Oh, this is going to be a long shift.
At Vodafone, we know how important it is to keep connecting. Whether you're working from your back bedroom or keeping the kids on top of chemistry, it's now more crucial than ever to have a reliable broadband connection. Switch to Vodafone Superfast Broadband to get average download speeds of 63 megabits per second for just £22.95 a month. Available online today. Ready? Vodafone.
Offer ends 4th of March. 24-month contract, credit check, acceptance, terms and CPI plus 3.9% annual price rise apply. Vodafone.co.uk/broadband.
James O'Brien on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
10:34 is the time. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC, where I'll just read this out. I don't know why I bother. You know, I say to you sometimes, people hear whatever they want to hear, regardless of what I do. And obviously it applies to a tiny minority of people who inhabit the two sort of opposite poles of politics, people who've got a lot more in common with each other than they have with us, but are convinced that they're diametrically opposed to each other. Call it the horseshoe theory. Corrupt Hancock's biggest fanboy and supporter at Mr. James O.B. live now on LBC backing his boy. So he should have resigned at several times over the course of the last 12 months. In a pre-Boris Johnson or even perhaps a pre-Brexit universe, most of the current cabinet would probably have been required either to walk the plank or be handed their sandwiches in a roadmap. The nicest thing I can say about Matt Hancock is that he doesn't appear to be an out-and-out sociopath in the way that many of his colleagues strike me, and on this occasion he has categorically been found to have acted unlawfully. But when you read into the detail of the case, I don't believe it's a resignation issue. If that is being a fanboy, then I'd hate to know what a critic sounded like, and there are no prizes for guessing the professed political affiliations of our correspondent there. 10:35 is the time. I would remind you once again, if I invite you to contribute substantive criticism of Keir Starmer to this programme, then tapping your heels together and saying, there's no place like Corbyn, there's no place like Corbyn, is not a valid criticism. Okay? Talk to me about what he is doing and what he is saying. Indeed, talk to me about who he is, if you wish, or who you believe him to be. But don't talk to me about who he isn't, because that ship has sunk. Not sailed, sunk, without trace. Natalie's in Somerset. Back to the question in hand. Natalie, what would you like to say?
Hello.
Hello.
It's all so depressing. I think...
Can we clip that up and use it as a... Can we use that as a slogan for the next 3 or 4 years? Beautifully delivered, Natalie.
The thing is, I think I know I'm not alone with the frustration and the anger and despair that I feel about what's gone on over the last sort of 12, 13 months of this government. The poor decisions, the poor leadership, the mistakes, the cronies, and I'm going to be the one that really... I'm frustrated about the specifically, he should necessarily call for him to resign, but I do think he should have been a little bit more angry at it.
Yes.
I mean, you know, the anger that I feel about everything that's gone on in the last 12 months, and I know I'm not alone, and what really worries me is that it's in disengagement, and people like myself, I know I will always vote, and I've wanted to always vote. They're grown up. Really worries me that in the May elections or in the next general election even, people will say, what's the point? A year of the government with this massive majority, they did whatever they wanted, they were up against, and nobody is, the only people criticising them in any real sense of the word are the people around the edges, and I don't mean you're around the edges, obviously, you're incredibly important.
I think you'll find I'm a fanboy.
Yeah. But if you watch nothing else news yesterday, if you watched anything else other than BBC, Sky, ITV News yesterday, actually I didn't watch ITV, but I'm assuming, would have thought that nobody cared.
I think, didn't Sophie Ridge, I don't watch the Sundays, I think Sophie Ridge went in quite hard. Big fan of Sophie Ridge's. I think she might be the future. Did she not?
Well, I actually did tweet her afterwards because she basically said, are you going to... said no, and then she moved on to something else.
It's not her job to say you should, is it? Is it? I don't know anymore.
She didn't ask any kind of follow-up question. She didn't ask anything about
Well, I'll take your word for it, but I don't.
Well,
yes.
I did watch it deliberately because I thought she might.
Of course.
And he came out with a thing about how we never run out of PPE and da 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 da, which I'm not well. And it could have been so. Even if you would expect the Sunday morning journalist of Heard Thatcher to at least have something else.
Oh, hang on,
to say.
I don't like bringing in people who aren't here to defend themselves unless they are politicians or complete reprobates. Can I run something by you? And this is not excuse, it's explanation, appropriately enough, given that that's what the judge said about Hancock accounting for his unlawful failure to publish these government contracts on time. I think if you add the words "on time" to this story, everything changes. But that's not what I want to run by you. That was Dave's present, the first caller. If I was in charge of the Labour Party, then I would be getting angry, for want of a better word, a measured, controlled anger about the death toll and the death rate. The death toll is 120,580, the fifth highest in the world still. The death rate per million of population, and again, this is always for countries with populations greater than 20 million, is the highest in the world. So if he got angry, if he continued to be getting angry about that, if he continued to be refusing to accept any justifications, excuses or explanations, if he successfully praised the vaccination program to the rafters, to the rooftops, while reminding us that it was the only thing that could save us, not just from the virus, but from this government, then the case for him getting angrier about this court case would be diminished, wouldn't it? Because he can't get angry, he can't get furious about everything forever. He has to pick his fights. Your criticism is that he doesn't seem to be picking any.
Well, I mean, there's a classic example of this is that he's very careful. Whenever he talks about the vaccine program, he always credits it with the NHS. He never credits it with the government.
Well, he's right. That's why the vaccine program has worked.
But what he does, he won't go the full way. He'll say the NHS are doing a fantastic job. And I would like him to follow that up with, it's not the government doing this, it's the NHS. But
oddly, because appointing buddies on sort of to positions that nobody else can apply for is not something we should generally be approving of. But appointing Kate Bingham, unpaid, to a position that nobody else could apply for, turned out to be a masterstroke. And Boris Johnson did that. This is another one of those things that nobody will hear me say if they are sufficiently entrenched in their own position. I am praising Boris Johnson for appointing Kate Bingham. Why don't you ever say anything positive about Boris? I am praising Boris Johnson for appointing Kate Bingham, and that was his decision, so you can't have that one, Natalie.
Well,
she played a blinder, mate, by any objective standard, an absolute blinder, and she didn't get paid a penny. She'll probably get embarrassed.
I just think he misses opportunities. I agree with you. I think he should be showing, about the death toll, the death rate.
The deaths, every day the deaths.
There's nowhere else to go. There's nowhere else to go with it. That is the most important thing. And I think you're right. If he had shown more anger, more passion about...
Passion is the word I want, not anger. Because passion is a good thing. Anger can sometimes hurt the person that is wielding it.
We're waiting for somebody to get behind. I can't believe I'm the only one who's just... Could you just not say what the rest of us are thinking on a significant number? Who are in these focus groups? Because as sure as hell isn't anyone like me. I mean, I do,
and I hear your passion, and I'm very grateful to you. No, crikey, that was passionate. Sometimes you need a little bit out, because I like you, anger's not the word I want. Passion is what I want. It really is, and that's beautifully put. Just in the latest in a long series of people will hear whatever they want to hear. This is from Andy. James O'Brien arguing in Starmer's defence is akin to defending a murderer breaking the speed limit on his way to the murder. Did he learn nothing from Good Law Project? Keep taking the tablets, Andy. That's very helpful. This is interesting. How can Johnson sack anyone when he's the biggest offender out of the lot of them? What his cabinet are doing looks perfectly normal to him. The only way to get these people out is to vote them out at the next general election. I'm not sure there's a lot wrong with that. 10:43 is the time, and that's a great point. I think I'm borrowing Natalie's point, and then proceeding to the point where I pass it off as my own, because if you're massively frustrated by the perceived failure to make more out of this story, I've got two suggestions to make to you, because I want to stay friends, even though we might disagree on this occasion. The first thing I'd say to you is that the very first caller to the programme, using incredibly strong language and absolutely adamant in his view that Hancock's offence is egregious, very, very honestly and creditably, when I pointed out to him that it's really just a failure to publish contracts within a 30-day period that were on average published within a 47-day period, everything changes, I think, if you're honest. But most of the anger, the fury, the passion being directed at this story over the weekend probably missed that 47-day point. I did initially, okay? And then, so that's point number one. And point number two is, if Sir Keir Starmer was displaying more passion, more outrage, more disgust about the death toll and the death rate, then perhaps we wouldn't feel, or you wouldn't feel, now I can say we in the first instance before I took a second glance, we wouldn't feel another missed opportunity. I wonder whether we're getting close to consensus on that. With, of course, the obvious exception of people determined to hear whatever they want to hear, regardless of whatever words are actually coming out of their radio. But in the great scheme of things, that's not a particularly hefty cross for me to bear.
The fight against COVID-19, Britain's road to recovery.
I just want to know when I'll be able to hug my mum.
Will we be able to go abroad?
I'll let you know when I can play five-a-side football again.
As the Prime Minister plans to ease lockdown, what are the questions you want answering?
What assurances are there that this is the last time that we won't go into another lockdown?
Can I get a haircut?
I need to get back to work as soon as possible.
When will I get to go back to school and see my friends and teachers?
Will I be able to open my shop I used to?
When can I get back to the office?
Throughout the day, stay with LBC for the UK government's plan to begin restarting the economy.
We'll be hearing your views, pubs, beer gardens, bring 'em back, Boris, and getting your reaction. Don't miss a moment throughout the day on LBC.
If you've lost money on a stocks and shares ISA or investment bond missold by a bank, then let me explain something. Firstly, you could be due that.
Good morning, my little wobble. What's this song? What's this song? Oh, cocaine. All right, mate.
Driven by something different. Skoda. With solutions PCP